At its peak, the United States had around 5,000 roller rinks nationwide, and Chicago was one of the great capitals of the boom. The city that manufactured the skates, packed the floors, and eventually created a style of movement that became unmistakably its own. Today, only a fraction of that world still exists. And in Chicagoland, one of the places that helped define roller skating culture, most of the rinks you grew up with are already gone. Orbit, Rainbow, Lombard, one by one, the buildings closed. The floors went dark. The skates got boxed up. This is the history of Chicagoland roller rinks, and it goes a lot deeper than you might think. But guys, before we get into it, we gotta address my last video where I said that I was being terminated and would no longer be here on YouTube because I'm being banned. Well, that is unfortunately still up in the air, but I'm still here. So while the policy states I'm going to be terminated, I haven't been terminated, so I figured I might as well upload. But I just want to take a quick second to thank all of you who have supported me, who reached out and followed me on Facebook and Rumble and Patreon. I do plan to continue making content, and I'm going to continue using these platforms. So for those of you who haven't seen that video, if you're already on one of these platforms, please consider following me over there. Thanks again for everybody who reached out, and I really appreciate it. Hopefully it doesn't happen, but if it happens, it is what it is. All right, let's get into it. Some people think of roller rinks as a 1970s thing. Saturday nights, disco lights, rental skates. I mean, for some, that was definitely peak, but roller skating in Illinois actually goes way back to at least 1868, when a public skating exhibition appeared at the Illinois State Fair. And by 1880, Chicago had its first purpose-built rink at Michigan Avenue and Congress Parkway. By 1885, there were already several of them, like the Casino on South State Street, which could hold 3,000 spectators, and the Princess on West Madison, or the Washington Boulevard rink. These were not small rooms. They had string bands, exhibition skating, and massive crowds. Some operated like theaters, where people just came to watch. And almost immediately, critics started complaining. Church leaders said rinks were pulling people away from Sunday obligations. Theater owners and saloon owners didn't like losing customers. And in the Victorian era, what really bothered people was simpler than any of that. Men and women were skating together in public, without chaperones, moving freely and touching hands during the couples skate. So, from the very first decade, Chicagoland roller rinks had a double identity, marketed as a wholesome family recreation, but treated as a social threat, which is probably a big part of why they caught on. By the turn of the century, roller skating had locked in Chicago's larger amusement economy. Sans Souci Amusement Park near 63rd and Cottage Grove built what was described as the largest skating rink in the city in 1899. White City on the south side had a rink, and Riverview up on the north side treated roller skating as a core attraction. And in 1905, brothers Ralph and Walter Ware founded the Chicago Roller Skate Company, making Chicago one of the most important names in American skating equipment manufacturing.
Chicago's Mr. Joseph Shevelson.
The most dramatic proof of the growth and development of the sport of roller skating is seen in a close examination of this modern, streamlined precision skate. Compare this beautiful, precision-engineered skate with the relics of olden days. Here is a pair of Chicago custom gold medalist skates.
So when people talk about Chicago skating culture, they're not just talking about rinks. They're talking about manufacturers, amusement parks, live music, and a whole local ecosystem feeding itself. Then, in 1935, Chicago added one more line to its skating resume. The first roller derby in history was staged at the Chicago Coliseum on South Wabash. What started as an endurance race eventually evolved into the full-contact, theatrical sport people remember from television. After World War II, the geography of Chicagoland skating changed. Many city rinks closed through the 1950s and the 1960s as families moving out to the suburbs took their Friday nights with them, and the rinks followed. Fleetwood Roller Rink opened in Summit in 1957, anchoring the southwest suburban corridor. Glenwood opened in 1965, pulling the far south suburbs. Tinley Park had already opened in 1955, converted from a square dance hall, which tells you something about how fast the culture was shifting. Orbit Skate Center opened in Palatine in 1972, becoming the go-to rink for the northwest suburbs. Markham Roller Rink opened in 1974, and Linwood Sports Center opened in 1975. On the north side, Rainbow and Uptown converted from an ice skating rink to roller in 1980 and became one of the city's best-known roller disco destinations. By the late 1970s, Chicagoland had rinks covering nearly every corner of the metro, and on any given Friday night, it could feel like every single one of them was full. Now, what the older generation would remember, the drive there, the radio on, knowing exactly what the night was going to be. Walking in and hearing the bass before you even got your skates on. The rental counter where the attendant slid you a pair of brown leather roller skates. And then the floor opening up in front of you. That long oval. Those colored lights moving across the hardwood. And the couple skate announcement that made half the room nervous and the other half suddenly very interested in their laces. You watched the older skaters who moved like they weren't trying at all. Those were the ones who owned every inch of that floor. You understood that this was something you could get good at. And for kids who grew up going in the late 80s and the 90s, the rink experience had a few extra layers. The older arcade machines were along the walls. The prize counter with the cheap plastic toys, erasers, and sticky hands. And you can't forget the glow sticks, or the DJ calling a backward skate, and of course, limbo, and the pole coming out and half the rink clearing the floor while the other half lined up to embarrass themselves. The music hit different inside a roller rink because it was loud, the floor was vibrating, and everyone around you was moving to the same beat. While the suburban rinks were filling up their parking lots every weekend, something specific was happening on the city floors back in 1971. A skater named Calvin Small started working out a new style of movement on the rink floor. Low to the ground, rhythmic, it pulled directly from the syncopated rhythms of James Brown. The style became known as JB skating, and it became Chicago's most distinct contribution to American skating culture. Chicago didn't just build rinks, it invented a style of movement that became unmistakably its own. Now, what happened? Well, the rinks didn't disappear for one single reason. It was a combination of pressures, and different rinks died from different factors. Rainbow was real estate. The land on Clark Street in Uptown became far more valuable than the building sitting on it. It was demolished in 2003 and turned into condos. Orbit and Palatine faced massive operating costs and property taxes. After 46 years, ownership noted that maintenance on a building that size, heating, cooling, insurance, and aggressive property tax increases made the math stop working. It closed in 2018. Lombard closed in 2023 when the family that had ran it for decades decided to sell the property and step back. A roller rink needs a massive building, a pristine floor, constant upkeep, and heavy utility costs. Then, when the land gets valuable and the buildings get old, nostalgia doesn't pay the property taxes. Nostalgia doesn't pay the insurance. Surely these places have a lot of slip and fall liability, so one by one, they went. But it's not entirely over. Fleetwood and Summit is still operating. Tinley Park is still rolling. Linwood Sports Center is still running. And the rink on 87th is still open. For many of us that went to these roller rinks as kids growing up, they were the moments that we finally let go of the wall. For Chicagoland, roller rinks were an institution, a youth center, a Saturday night ritual, and 3 hours of freedom on a hardwood floor under colored lights and great music. They gave this region something that can't be streamed, downloaded, or recreated on a screen. A place to be in a room full of people, all doing the same thing at the same time, all moving in the same direction. And even though most of them in Illinois and across the country have closed, the memory of them still rolls on. But they're still out there, guys. If you can skate, get out there, go hit up a roller rink. Alright, that's all I got for this one, guys. If you like this video, hyping it, liking it, commenting and subscribing, all of that stuff goes a long way to help a channel like this, and I greatly appreciate it. I'm going to link to Facebook and Rumble and Patreon in the comments section. For any of you that have an account on any of those platforms, please consider following me over there in case something happens to this channel. Let me know some of your favorite roller rink memories. And thanks for watching today's episode of Chicagoland History.